Let's call the meeting to order. The clock shows 8:30.
That's where all those are.
Get this deal over with. Robert, you're our only guest. You have anything to say?
No, I just hope that the board realizes the most important water that I use down there that I really calculate off of is that return flow, so don't let a drop of it get by to anybody else.
We don't let any of it on purpose, I promise. Okay, approval of the minutes. The minutes provided in your packet. Any additions or corrections? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion to approve them as presented, as you all have in your packet.
So moved.
Art makes a motion, Larry seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You're on.
Good morning.
Mary Sunshine.
Under the estimate report, there are 2 CDs that are coming up for renewal and maturity. CD 36007695 and 7703. We might have to cash in on one of those CDs in order to get through the fiscal year.
Okay.
Is there any questions on the balance sheet?
Art, you have any questions on the balance sheet or any of that? No. Not really?
Budget is pretty good too.
Mary's smiling over it.
We have 2 months left.
The budget is pretty good at this stage. Pretty good.
I guess go to the $500 check report. Let's deal with AT&T fax lines and then main lines. I'm sure it's been there before, but I just haven't realized that we have to treat a fax line different than a main line.
Yes, yes. The main lines are digital, and it goes through a trunking system, the computer in the back, and then the fax lines are direct lines.
Do we use fax a lot anymore?
We do. We have, how many, Mary, 5 dedicated fax lines? I know that the dispatcher still uses quite a bit. There's farmers that fax in their water orders.
Probably not.
And then we have one in my office.
Engineering does them.
Yeah, my office, I still use mine, and then we have the main one. But we can look at what we have and maybe we can trim that.
Well, I mean, I just didn't realize there were separate lines and
Yes.
email and everything's taken over so much. I didn't know how much you use them anymore.
Yeah, for the farm, I got an email fax service, so that people can still fax to us, but it comes in as email. So it's one less thing to check.
E-fax or whatever.
Yeah, e-fax, I think it's $7 a month or something, it's not really expensive.
I always had a fax machine because I didn't use email very much, and then I got Verizon as my phone at home, and I have to use e-fax because I don't have a landline anymore. Yes, it's a technology on the way out anyway. So.
Yeah, well, leave one of them. It is. Leave one of them. I still like those faxes.
I'm just saying though, it's it's all going digital, so sooner or later it'll be history.
They're the most secure way to send stuff.
You think? You worry about sending things out in
You
the
bet.
world, all over the whole world in the air?
You bet.
Any questions on the $500 check report? Nope. There you go, easy. Okay, that's ready to show we reviewed them, no action having been taken.
Just saving up for roads.
Okay, Rose.
No, just kidding.
Good morning.
Okay, my first item we have one adjustment. This property was under the ownership of Maria Jimenez. We had filed tax suit, we tried to recover taxes, didn't happen, so we scheduled for tax sale, that was June the 4th, 2013. There was no bid, therefore the property was transferred to the El Paso County as trustee. Therefore, we have to make an adjustment on the 2013 taxes only. It's 161 days that are taxable. We will be making an adjustment on 204 days that are tax exempt. Tax assessment is $14.11. Penalty and interest, $2.11 for a total adjustment of $16.22.
How big is, how easy is where is it?
I'm sorry?
How big a parcel is it?
The property is 1.01 acres.
Where is it?
It's in Socorro. Let me get you the address.
Was there only 1 year delinquency?
No, sir. The property had delinquent taxes, but it became a trustee account in June of
Well, that's
2013.
the you just
So we're making
changed.
just the adjustment on 213. The other taxes are still, they're good, they're live.
Still, and she lost it though, right?
She lost the property. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and
It's
they're-
not just our taxes that are due, I'm sure.
Exactly. And we do try to make every effort for the property owner to pay before we take site action.
Good.
We need a motion to accept that adjustment?
Yes, sir.
Make that motion.
Okay, Art makes a motion to make that adjustment to the tax roll. Larry second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Next, we have leases for El Paso Public Service Board, a joint project. As of June 30th, we processed 595 leases, collected 59,500 in processing lease fees, and collected $18,390.96 in living wages.
Isn't that something?
It is, it's working.
600
Mhm.
accounts,
Yes, sir. It's working.
just for a little bit of effort.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show we reviewed that.
Next one, we have a comparison between tax year 2002 and 2013. We are still trailing a bit. Right now, we collected 97.3269% versus last year, we collected 97.4823.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
We came up with percent when we started delivering water, didn't we?
Our next item, we have a list of taxes that have been filed. And I just want to bring your attention, there is an additional column, it's the last one to your right. And we're gonna try to update the list. Mr. Ivy, you had asked about 2 months ago, the accounts that have been paid, why they're still on the list. Reason is that the suit has not been released. So we're going and identifying if there's been a motion filed or an order to dismiss the suit or if the property has been sold. Once this list has been updated, we will review the list again and then give you an updated one. So we've had 2 accounts from last month to this month paid in full. Any questions? Oh, and one more thing, I'm sorry. Just to let you know, as of July 1st, the 2013 taxes now have a 15% collection fee. By contract with Lineberger, Golden Blair, Sampson, Bettis, we have to charge a 15% to the current year tax.
There we go. All right, any other questions? Rose? Rose, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's record show no action taken on those last 3 items. All right, General Manager.
Okay. Item A, I'd like to go ahead and just ask the board to we just table that item A. There was still some work. Al and I talked about this yesterday. It's part of the Mesa drain that's located right there by Butch Brown's old farm. That section was about 18 or 20 years ago. The federal government placed that section of drain underground, and the city of Socorro built a park on top of it. Now they've been talking to us about the possibility of maybe removing the park, and if we would dig out the drain again, because of flooding situations there. But Al and I have been talking about, you know, they haven't applied for an MS4. There's a lot of things that we need to discuss with them, so I'd like to just ask you all just to table that until next month.
There's no action either.
Yeah, just no action.
Okay. On item B, I had Robert come in a little earlier because we wanted to talk over water budget and what our plans are up to this date. We, first of all, we wanted to call a farmers meeting on July 28th and 29th where we could meet with the Upper Valley and Lower Valley farmers and give them one last briefing on what the water situation looks like and more or less when we'll be ending the season so they can continue planning appropriately. And those are dates that we came up with, and I was hoping that maybe we could stick to that schedule where we could have some more information for the farmers on those dates, if that's all right with the board.
All right with me.
Monday and Tuesday?
Yes, it's a Monday and Tuesday. We had talked about maybe the week before that, or the week after, but the facilities that we usually use are taken up for those dates. So these are the only open dates that we had.
That's fine, sure.
The allocation committee went ahead and allocated the last water that was available for both districts, and we're about at 92,000 acre feet right now.
But the losses were higher than before, so that just, a little bit of additional water we got is not available for any allocation to the farm.
Is it gonna get us
The target, model shows the 21st.
21st of August is at this date.
One benefit, indirect benefit that we received was that it did, because Mexico's allocation is based on the amount that's released, not on the performance of the river, which makes sense under the treaty. It increased their runtime by 6 days, which means that we don't, this district doesn't have to pay for the losses for 6 more days, which helps. That gets us, so that looks like August 6th or 7th is when Mexico was shut off.
Right.
We haven't got confirmation of that yet, but we anticipate that that's when they'll schedule it. That means we'll pick up 100% of the losses after that, so that's a 2-week period that we can afford to do that, so that pushes us out another week, so that's good.
Okay, so the
We'll
new
know.
date is August 21?
Is that taking into account them turning off early like you're talking about?
But if they do, well, I should say, I haven't evaluated, run the model on that, but I think that it works, that as long as Mexico's online, that it doesn't have any impact on it, if they shut off early.
Any
And
give-
it does on the west side canal.
Any give on EPID? No.
Well, let me explain to you what we heard as of yesterday. They were discussing yesterday whether they've got about 25,000 acre feet. They don't know if they're going to allocate that 25,000 or try and carry it over. They were going to decide that today. We had some of from what I understand from Gary and from Phil King, is that some of their board members wanted to allocate it. Some of them were thinking of maybe carrying it over. I know Robert talked to James, and that's the same information he got. So we'll know more today after they have their board meeting. And then we're meeting with Mexico on Friday morning, so we'll have a definite date from them as to how far they can go. And I'll relay that back to Al so he can start calculating and figuring out what we're
Well, we
going to
need to get the word out, because most of the farmers I've talked to still think that September 1. So if we're back to August 21, it's 9 days.
Right, that's why we want to have that 28th and 29th meeting.
Yeah, need to get the word out. That can make a difference in
Well,
irrigation.
if it rains, it
deal.
We can
I mean, I
stretch
think
it.
there's so many unknowns in it that we were extremely careful at the meetings, because,
It's hard to best guess.
I mean, how many times did we repeat? That was not.
That was not said, I know that, but that
I
doesn't
mean,
mean
at
those
least,
guys.
I think, at least 20 times I counted during
Yeah,
the meeting.
but it doesn't
Yeah, I've been going under the assumption it'd be mid-August, hopefully,
Right.
that more.
And then depends on the rains, the monsoons, EPCWID, Mexico, and all the things that are unpredictable in the system. And if we get to the 21st and we have additional water, I would think the board would want us to continue on. I don't understand EPCWID, they, basically, that their allocation is about 100,000, or a little less than that, but, and they missed it by 25, so their initial allocation was off by 25 to 30%. Our initial allocation looks like we're off by 3%. So from, sitting today in my calculations, so how they missed their performance of their system by 30%, and we missed it by 3%, I don't know.
Because they don't know how their system performs.
I don't know. I mean,
I mean, seriously, they don't.
they've had a big personnel turnover up there.
And they never keep tabs on stuff like we do.
Yeah.
They've already shut off the array, so.
Well, they started the race, or remember, the race
Oh, yeah,
started
started
10 days
about a week
before
earlier,
everybody
yeah.
else.
Right.
They were telling Chewy or Gary was yesterday, they have a big problem because they don't know what to do with the water. I don't understand what the problem is. I mean, either
Well,
divide the acres and take the losses off, and here everybody gets an extra quarter of an inch or whatever.
well, no, it's a timing deal. We would be faced with the same if we were forced with, we have a little more time to take care of it ourselves, but as
They're
soon,
still on.
I know that they have such short time, they can't get around everybody if they increase allocation. Well, that's their problem, so,
We can't do it either.
we could do a lot better, a lot closer.
Well, we might can, but I mean, at some point in time.
Well, we didn't miss our initial allocation by 30%. That's the problem. If they had hit the initial allocation more accurately, they wouldn't be in this
Burning
situation.
up and needed water early and caused all of that deal, I don't get it.
I don't understand either, but you have to have pretty good forecasting in this situation because it's so short. And we had last year to learn, and we did really well last year, and so I think we're gonna do better this year. The only thing that was a little bit unpredictable was the losses in the river and how long we're gonna pay for them. So hopefully it'll rain.
Yeah, well, I've been not yet.
Robert, do you want to go ahead and jump in with your report right here, so you can handle that 10 o'clock?
Okay. And like you always saying, talked to James this morning and they're pretty well, don't know what they're gonna do yet as far as the water is concerned. He was saying that they're looking to still July the 25th. There's a possibility that he might take his water and try to go as far as maybe the 10th of the 6th of August, try to go with Mexico, at least on the east side and the west side. So, but like again, like you said, he will not know until the due date, what the board's gonna do. But coming back to us, today we started the third watering in the small tracks, and so far they've been a blessing, but they've been, it's pretty hard because just sometimes on the weekends when we get the small tracks, trying to deliver the water to small tracks, Unit 9 kind of takes a little hit, but then we're recovering from the small tracks and we hit Unit 9 pretty strong Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and up to Friday, and then they take a beating on Friday, Saturday, but it's been working. We've been keeping up with irrigation. Sometimes they don't get their water in time, but also the farmers have a tendency to, they're starting to play kind of the cat and mouse game with us. Instead of putting the orders for Monday, they wait till Tuesday, because if they put the orders for Monday, we'll call them on Sunday, and they don't want to be called on Sunday, so they put the orders on Tuesday, and then on Monday they get mad because they try to reach the dispatcher or me, and we're super busy on Mondays. But I got 2 dispatchers trying to answer phones on Monday, but still, it's pretty busy. But we're making it. We're covering everything we need to do. We also covered EPCWID one small tract watering, because they only provided one small tract watering to their small tracts. And we covered them pretty easy, and we got that out of the way. For the months of June, we have covered a total of 37,000 acres of farmland. That's how many acres we watered in the month of June. and we watered 5,000 acres of small tracts. Total, we watered 42,000 acres in the month of June, with what I was saying, was, you know, trying to stay within the budget of the, close to, what was it, close to about 31,000. You know, we stay with those numbers pretty close. You know, it's been a hit and miss, but sometimes the river takes a dip, but sometimes it doesn't. But we're doing it, and we got 2 more after this one. We got 1 more small track, and we're doing pretty good. You know, Pete's not here, but the maintenance department done, I think, pretty a good, outstanding job of keeping the canals clean. It's something that a lot of the board members don't know. Pete would always help me out with some of his men. During the water season, one of his more men, I made him a dispatcher, and he's turned out to be pretty good. And some of his repairmen have turned out to be discharged, and they turned out to real good. So, and that's all, and the thing of doing to not go into the overtime and not to use overtime. One of the things that we've been doing this year was the supervisors I have, they play more of a leadership role of a senior ditch rider, because what I'm doing right now, every Friday and Saturday, if you guys notice, there's only one ditch rider out there, like a 9A, 9B, there's Tony. I'm not too crazy about it, but it works better for me and the operation, because when you have one ditch rider out there, not two, Tony's in 9A and 9B, he won't pick up a next irrigation in 9B to dry out 9A, you see. So he knows what's gonna happen if he picks up an irrigation in 9B to dry out 9A. But the same reason, if somebody's gonna finish in 9A, what does he do with that irrigation? He can either keep it in 9A or he takes it to 9B. And again, if he's gonna be overburdened, the ditch rider is, I'll put him another ditch rider there during the daytime to help him out. So far, it's been working pretty successful. I don't do it just because I want to. I ask the ditch riders and I ask the supervisors, can one man handle it? If they say no, then we'll put 2 men out there. But we've been very successful with that, with the way it's working, and still not getting into the overtime budget, right, Mary? Mary keeps a close eye on the overtime, so we've been very successful with the overtime. I think Mary told me yesterday we only used like $3,000 so far in overtime, so that's very good. So far, like I said, we've done pretty good. We had a couple of overflows, but nothing really serious ditch breaks. And you know, every time there's an overflow, we look at it very carefully through the telemetry that we have out there. The man out there busy, is sitting around bullshitting, whatever. But we keep a close eye on him to make sure that when the overflow does occur, is the man stay on his toes? Is he traveling? When the last time he went by there? If he has been there an hour ago before the overflow, you know, there's not much we can do. That's the way it happens. But we've been very successful on that too. Everything's going pretty good. And we just got another maybe 45 days to go.
Robert put together that crop report, which we included in your package. If you all had any questions on that, Robert and I went through it pretty thoroughly, and then we also went through the land that's laid out, not being farmed. There's about 15,000 acres that we estimate more or less that are out there laid out.
How much of that's assignments? Did you get that number?
No, she hasn't.
You have an estimate of how much of the 15,000 being transferred?
Transferred? What
I don't know, well, because they don't call for it, but a lot of it has been transferred. Like, you know, like I think our Johnny has some land that you're not farming, but it's being moved over, and they are calling for it. Ramon would be a good example. The Ivies have done it.
We never transfer anymore.
They haven't transferred, but there a lot of them are fixing to start transferring.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of water transfers up to date.
Because if you land out land, you got your own extra.
Well, but a lot of them, Johnny, are renting land that's not theirs, but they transfer it over to their account.
From there, but he hasn't really changed the amount of acres. I suspect there's probably 15,000 out there.
Yeah.
Not being farmed.
Yeah, but
I know the water.
There is 15,000, but how much of that has Kathy done transfer papers work on?
She hasn't done a lot of transferring
Yeah,
yet.
we haven't had a bunch.
They're right now,
Anticipating, so.
there will be, because a lot of, from what I've seen, a lot of farmers talking to them,
But these are the acres that have called for water.
yeah.
But the transfers will call for water, and
But
we've
it
historically
shouldn't
had
affect-
about 5,000
It
acres.
shouldn't affect the difference in acres.
Yeah, it will. Because that land is not, the call for water will be on that additional 5,000 acres of transfer, which would reflect as another column, another row on this, so instead of
It's
29,000.
not gonna
it'd be
change the
34.
number of acres that are being irrigated.
That's right, but the amount of water in my calculations that I have to reserve for each acre is as if it had. been.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the amount of water you have to supply, but
Right.
it's not gonna change the acres.
No, I'm not saying that, but it changes our allocation, and so our allocation is
Well, yeah.
based on 35,000. My estimates would be based on last year, that 34 would be the number.
And like True said, those acres, that little report is very helpful, because also another thing we do is like 7B, we'll shut it down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And everybody that orders water there, like the 2-3 acres, we wait till the small tract weekend, and we go in there and water them out. Another one, that 8B unit, San Rosario has turned practically all small acres, so the same thing with that one. We wait till the weekend, when we got small tracts, then we got 2 detritus out there, and we go in there and we'll wipe out the whole thing. That saves us a lot of water, in the sense that we don't have to run water that 8D unit. See, we can transfer that water and put it in 9 and hit the big farm, but then the weekend, we had to come back and do water in the 8D and that 7B area.
I was just saying that Alpha Butte only,
There's only
one small tract, what, do they operate different than they do? I mean, they only give, what is a small tract up there to start with? Is it the same as here? Alpha Butte?
Yes, it's 2 acres,
Acres or under?
2 acres and below, and God bless you, and
And they only give them 1 irrigation and we schedule 4.
Well,
How do they do that?
our calculations are based, the number of irrigations are based on the measurements that we make. And it's 4.7 inches per acre average delivery for a small tract.
So
That's
we can
everybody.
equalize the amount of water we give, but if they only give them 1, where they tell them go put a foot on, because we have a foot allocation one time, or what?
We don't know.
it's a free-for-all, Johnny, because down there, they have no control of small tracts whatsoever. Here, a lot of the small tracts, the way we handle them, we pretty well give them a time limit. If the community got a responsible person, which we
But
found.
doesn't everybody have the right to get the same amount of water? That's what I.
Not in New Mexico. Once they declare them, there's a different law. They've got,
Well, I'm asking that.
yeah, they've got extensive, small irrigation or urban irrigation rules in their codes. And I haven't researched them, but my understanding of it, for having been one at one time, was that it's only a courtesy that they provide any water to people under, is it under 2 acres there?
Under 2 acres.
Yeah. They don't have any obligation to provide any water to people under 2
Well,
acres.
the federal reclamation law
Uh,
doesn't have anything to do with that?
We think it does, but they don't.
That's what we've always thought, that
we don't want to comment too much because of the litigation that's going on right now, but there may be legal issues on their part, not on ours. We've always felt it was pertinent to the land, like it
Just
says.
wondering, I mean-
And under Texas law, there doesn't allow you to differentiate by size. So,
which is where it should be, but when he made that statement, I'm thinking, the more I hear about Alpha Butte, the less I understand about how they do things. I'm serious.
well, I think they've always viewed small tract as a burden, and not, their primary duty is to agricultural land, and that federal law interprets irrigation of turf as, in the reclamation code, it says irrigation. And so as long as we allow, like, some of the schools and areas that are irrigated, is allowable because it's irrigation, even though it's for turf or for grass. In New Mexico, there is a statutory ability to differentiate between use for lawns and for turf and use for example, let's say you had a grass farm and you were growing grass to sell. That would be an agricultural activity, but if you have a golf course or a football field, that's not. And so they're able to differentiate that way. And my understanding was when I irrigated in Mesilla Valley, or Mesilla Park there, was that they sent me letters saying that it's only like a courtesy. Like if
Well,
I pay my fees, and
They don't have a voting right either.
there's no voting right, and if I paid my
Well, they don't.
my equivalent, in other words, I didn't have a water right.
It's like a privilege.
Yeah, it was a privilege, if they had the water, and I paid this amount.
Well, they don't
then
vote, or they don't count, they're really not part of the district.
That's the way it's sort of in between, they gave me this courtesy, you know, or this privilege.
So behave yourself.
Behave yourself, right. If I did anything, they had any time, it said in the notice that they could deny
They
me.
still count all those acres in their 105 down
I don't know, under 90, I don't know if they do or not, but I think they do.
No, they
there.
do.
Sure, they'd have to. Weird.
And it's been a battle. We handle New Mexico counts, and I have one gentleman right now that really fighting me because he figures his 6 inches should give him 3 waterings.
Wow.
Was he been watering his driveway?
No, he's a big pecan farmer, but they get a new foreman in there and he wants to make a name for himself, and he's been right now fighting me, so I'm gonna go meet with him in Penatillo and explain to him the facts of life.
About 2 inches?
Yeah, and he wants to argue with me and try to beat me up, and I said, you're not gonna get there, I can tell you that right now. And he said, well, we'll see. I said, okay, no problem, no problem. He said, you don't wanna go there, but
Is he a New Mexico farmer?
yes. And he understands, like, well, I irrigated 9 hours, so I said, I understand you irrigated 9 hours, but we're charging you 36 hours, you can be open for turnouts. He doesn't understand that, he's figuring 9 hours, and
Wow.
he doesn't understand that.
You don't want to.
And then I explained to him
We get
about,
high flow turnout, lots of them.
and then I explained to him, when you irrigate your wells, how many you got? He got 4. I said, well, when you start them, he said, how long did it take you? 10 hours. He said, you only use 1, how long would it take me? I never watered. Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. And I can tell him, he said, you don't, he said, I don't understand. He said, if you don't understand, you don't want to understand.
Exactly.
Public Wi-Fi.
The charges have gone out. We're having a little bit, but so far, they've gone out pretty good. On the New Mexico farms, me and Kathy got to the point now that every water order that the farmer puts in, we're double checking it. They don't go out until me and Kathy see it, because a lot of these guys, they're trying to manipulate it to, they have 5 acres, they still got a half a foot that they want to irrigate. And we're saying no, and they're getting mad. But we can't let them water, you don't have enough water down there to water. But they're trying their best.
No, I don't know how y'all manage that 6A. The more I'm thinking about it, it's been that way forever, because whenever they shut off early and y'all have to account for their allotments different than our allotments, and that's an absolute.
You gotta be half crazy, Johnny.
You're gonna be all crazy when you finish.
Johnny,
Well,
you remember, of course, it's a product of the Joint Powers Agreement, and it's probably time, because conditions have changed. You've got different laws in New Mexico, as we all know, than those that exist in Texas. And I would suggest that we need to set up a committee to take a look at the Joint Powers Agreement and see if it doesn't need some changes, some modifications.
The tough part is when they shut off, and then they have an obligation to irrigate our constituents, and then they say, well, we don't have any more manpower.
Right.
It's the same the other way.
But, yeah, we have to,
Well,
argue with
we
them.
don't ever
hey,
do that, we honor.
We have an obligation.
And the Joint Power Agreement already addresses that, and they're not supposed to do that.
No, I understand, but it's just, and I don't know how you're gonna do it any difference, but my God, what a quagmire of problems.
Remember, I was looking at our alternative configurations we were working with Indar on 2 years ago, was not only was lifting water from the river into the La Unioniz, was backflowing it from the Wasteway 32 all the way around to the parted, or the check structure, and getting it to our side so we could take over operations on the.
That's providing water, but accounting for it is an absolute
Well,
nightmare.
I think the accounting is is fairly sophisticated, that we've instituted both in the computer code, and Kathy handles a
You're
lot
not
of
the
it.
only ones that do it though, it's Alpha Butte has to do it too, that's what I say.
We sort of do.
yeah, we keep up with our numbers.
Sorta, you know.
We take care of both sides.
I don't
We
know.
take care of the
But
numbers.
literally, we were looking at, it's really not a problem with the language, it was a difficult, and I think it was a well-done agreement. It's the problem with what do you do when one party doesn't do their part.
Which is not unusual.
I think
So
it-
what we do is we do it.
It's like our agreement in the beginning of the year. I'll just say it's a quagmire pond, I don't know how you do it, I really don't.
It works,
Yeah,
Jimmy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we-
not so manual, but my gosh.
I just get the numbers for Al and then to make sure they're right. First, before I even give Al the numbers, I get with James and the accountant up there, make sure they're all right, and I get with Lori and say, okay.
So you have to do all of that stuff just because it's.
Yeah, it's the most complicated calculations an operating agreement are on those
Well, yeah.
those two things. If you look at our equations, it's 2/3 of the equations of the operating agreement have to do with La Union East and La Union West. 3 states isn't too bad, and we're able to handle that problem, but, you also have to understand that there's a significant number of fields, that half the fields in Texas and another half's in New Mexico too. It's not just where the turnout is, it's.
No, that's what I say, it's crazy.
So,
When you get with Lori, you give them the numbers, she looks like one of those casino machines that rides, just rolling back and forth.
I can imagine.
What?
Like a slot machine.
But it works, and so the charges, we're gonna continue minimum once a week on those charges. If you water, you will get a new statement. If there's been adjustment, you will receive a new statement also.
And if neither of those happen, you don't get a statement.
You don't get a statement. But I think right now, everybody pretty well will water somebody other about every week, other than the small farmers. But the small farmers, when I'm saying small farmers, a lot of them are already out of water. The 5, 6, 10 acre people are pretty well.
Well, because they're farming 100% of their ground.
Right, Johnny. And
And that's
then,
the reason we still have some water, because we're not
yeah,
farming.
and then like on 7A, watered the first time, they almost took 10 inches, 12 inches on the first watering. They were so dry.
It's so dry.
And
Everybody knew.
But that's it for me.
Nature of the beast.
When we meet again, it'll almost be over.
Almost. All right, Robert, well, I hope it's not open, or, we're still talking about it in our September meeting.
Oh, wouldn't it be great? But
Talking about monsoon.
that's a lot of wishing and hoping.
Well, it's just a thought.
Monsoon.
All right, thank you, Robert.
Been waiting for this one.
Item C, we got the draft, grant contract from Texas Water Development Board, and Al and I have been looking it over, and what we wanted was permission from the board, once we've completed, to sign it and get it back to Texas Water Development Board. We need to have it back in their hands by August 1.
I've got one.
Julie, I'm sorry, I don't think you can do that. Where you get a blank check, from the board, they've got to approve the final contract, whatever it is. So we've got to recommend it to the board, and then they've got to approve it.
I think this is the final contract, isn't it?
That's what I was gonna ask you, is it past legal and everything?
It needs to be considered then.
I didn't have any changes, Alan, that's usually fine.
Well, the only, and I'm sorry, Jay, I didn't get to talk to you about it, but, and I don't really, I feel that strongly about it, but, I know that they changed, and recommended that they change the annual, that the project be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They did that from their experience that everybody overpromises and underdelivers with their other, districts. We always perform.
And I
And
think
that means we're obligated to turn in annual reports.
That's a change for us, right? I mean, in a good way, I mean, it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, it just means that, well, it affects us a little bit. It means that there'll be additional paperwork. We'll have to turn in a report even though there's no activity for.
But you just have to say it's complete.
Their reports aren't, we have to show more than that. We have to show quite a bit of stuff. It's probably, I would estimate it's 20 to 30 hours worth of work to do those reports.
But they also did it because of the drought situation.
You're talking about annual reports?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to itemize all the water that's in there, we have to estimate the amount that the project saved during those years, we have to estimate O&M costs, it's like the project's still alive, even though we would like to just close it out. But we initially had 2 years in the proposal.
Right.
We would, it gave us an extra year, I thought that was enough.
That's even better.
And so we do 2 of them, and then we're done. But they said that they prefer to give us more time, but that means there's more burden. I don't have a strong opinion about it. It's just,
If you've actually finished the project, they don't allow you at that point just to say, okay, now we're through, so we don't have to do that report next year.
no, that would mean going back and changing the contract and taking it back in front of their board and our board, and they probably would not want to do that at
They'll
that time.
copy the one you sent them the year before and change the date.
This is what I recommend, is somehow that doesn't,
If
it's
you're
not have
through-
new
if you're
data.
through with the
I
thing-
can't put 2015 data in the 2016 report.
Okay.
Do you really think
Make some
somebody will ever
adjustments.
look at them?
Yeah, I know they will, because I've been through this before, so that's
make
why I'm
some
advising you that if you want to do 2 years, you should do it now. If you want to do 5, you should do it now. I don't have a strong opinion either
But we
way.
can't approve the contract until you have that agreed to by them.
They will agree to it, I'm pretty sure. It was their request that it be extended to
We
5
can
years.
approve the final contract with it being in there.
Yes, you can.
You can just delete those and approve it.
You can
That's
approve
what-
whatever you
approve
want
it the way it
to,
is.
That's
and
what I'm
then
saying.
it's up to the,
It's up to you, whatever you guys want to
it's
do.
up to what the
There's
state
really no
needs to
issue.
change
You're
it.
saying
It's
there's
a-
no issue.
There's no issue. We will
Yeah.
do the reports if you want us to,
Just leave it as is.
but we plan to be done in less than 2 years.
Right.
So you can
Gonna
change
make
that
another
project
copy of it.
completion date.
Are you gonna make another copy of the contract with those things not in there?
We will just strike through those in initial,
There you go.
with the ruler
We
and
can
pencil,
approve that.
so our lines are straight.
Make sure
Or
we
pin,
get-
sorry, ruler and pin.
That's the only changes that you,
That's all I'm writing.
okay, so do I
Is
hear a
that-
motion to approve
Wait,
it?
wait, you gotta have the contract here in front of you.
It is, it's in your
It's in the
packet.
packet.
Okay,
That would be on page 2.
It's item C
yeah, so I got it, yeah,
of number 6.
yeah.
66.
14 pages,
Yes.
you'd be changing dates and all
It's
that.
actually, it's on page 2 of the first section
Page 2
1.
of, section 1, page 2 of 2.
Yeah, section 1, there's 2 parts to the contract.
At the very top, you can
Standard
change the
agreement.
completion dates, I assume.
Standard
Okay.
board.
We,
Al, can you mark out what you wanna mark out, say in the copy that's in front of Johnny?
How about I'll do the one that's in front of me? And then give it
Well,
to
then
Jim.
Johnny, that makes Johnny have to cross his out, and I guess he's,
He's
Willing
probably-
to
They're
give
so,
you-
they're so minor.
it'd have to be in front of all the directors, I'm not the only director here.
There-
It doesn't matter. We can have a motion
I'll
to
pass it
approve it,
around.
and y'all work on the resolution when that includes those changes for each thing.
but the 2-year deal,
Let's just leave it at 5 years.
No, we don't have to.
Whatever you guys want. Here,
I entertain a motion, somebody make a motion that we approve the contracts with the Texas Water Development Board with
Yeah.
the changes we've discussed.
with the contract expiration date of August 31st, 2016.
There you go.
That's
Make
all.
the resolution fit.
Don't move.
Okay. Indar makes a motion, do I hear a second? Miguel seconds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, item E, we have an opportunity to seek other grant money through Texas Water Development Board. I went up there and met with them about the contract that we just discussed, and then they made me aware that they're starting to take applications for 2015. We've got an opportunity to continue with our projects, especially the Riverside Canal of concrete lining. And Al and I wanted your all's permission to review and see what's going to be available and seek those funds.
Of course. I mean, that goes without
That's it.
saying, you know.
Yeah, it hasn't been, that was a pre-announcement, so the dates that it's due has not been put in the Texas registry, so we anticipate that within a week or 2.
Right, although they did give us a date of, or they gave me a date of September 15th that we'd have to file our application by then.
Yeah, they anticipate closing on the 15th. We don't know when it's gonna open, but we know when it's
It
gonna
doesn't give
close.
you very much time.
It's gonna open on the 14th and close on the 15th.
So that's why you put it on the agenda today. This time we matched at 2/3 was our funds, 1/3 was theirs. The minimum matching is 50/50. We recommend that this time we go with the minimum. We feel that as a second phase, that they, since they've already, that we have.
Well, most of ours, and we do the work.
Yeah,
Yes, equipment.
Yeah.
we use that to match, as our match.
That's our matching, that's what I'm saying.
So we'll go with 50/50 this time, instead of 66/34 or whatever. And we just continue with the lining. And one thing that I wanted to run by the board, I don't know if I talked to you about last time, is that I think at least in terms of, we need to bring back to the board, but I feel that we have an opportunity to build a fairly significant sediment catchment basin between the outlet of the Bustamante treatment plant and Partador. Everybody can picture that in their, you know, as Johnny calls Lake Riverside.
Yeah, like we're,
We own a lot of right of way there, and we
we
could,
on that, on the east
yeah,
side.
and we could actually over excavate that area, design it with ramps and stabilize parts with lining and other parts we wouldn't.
What are you gonna do with the sediment once you get it?
We're gonna open up, we're gonna talk to Stanley Job about if he needs clean fill. So, I don't know.
He may, really.
We do have our 30 acres there that we've been using before, but then they may need it, and we may be able to use our 30 acres as a stockpile for people to be able to harvest, make it available to people. It is clean, and generally so, but it gives us a unique opportunity to keep that out from the rest of the system, which we're
It's got a
spending
lot of
enormous.
silt in it though, right?
It'll be primarily sand at that point.
Primarily, but it's not really cement, sand, you said.
No, you can't use it for, it's just clean fill, like, and bedding material and things like that. So there's some potential uses for it. So with that, I would propose that we study that and propose a study in the proposal as part of the.
What about the Socorro Pond? Are we gonna ever do anything to get that ever done?
We need to form an executive committee on that, and I think we made the request
So
several
I was
times.
wondering is if, but they're supposed to put it back in the condition, right?
There's some legal issues we need to discuss.
Right.
We
And
need
the
to-
application has been filed by El Paso Water Utilities for the grant money.
And that's why I remember they were gonna do it, that's what I was thinking.
It's very complicated, and it has to do with contracts and even with this compact litigation. So we really need to get the executive committee together and get them together, see if we can come to terms, having to do with water right issues with it, to see whether we can even go forward. Whose water is it in the pond?
And El Paso Water Utilities did name their 2 executive board members. And of course, we have you and Art on ours, so we just need to get you all together and start talking about it.
Works for me.
And they understand the money that we've already spent and invested in that, hoping that that project will materialize eventually. So John's on board. We just need to figure out what percentages we're going to utilize as far as the split of water.
I'm glad you said eventually, we've only been working on it for 30 years.
Right.
Well, it hasn't been, funding hasn't been approved, but before we even get any farther, we have to come up, we're gonna probably have to have another agreement and something along the lines might be able to incorporate it into 2001, and the federal government's gonna be involved. I gotta brief the executive committee and all that, because there's various paths to go, and as soon as the executive committee advises me and choose which path we wanna go, then we bring it back to the board.
All right.
And then we also feel that through TCEQ, and Herman's been on that committee to study silt and sand capturing along the river from New Mexico all the way down. So we feel that this grant application with Al's idea they'll really like it at Texas Water Development Board. So we have a good opportunity to get some more money for 2015.
I think we're, in 2006, the city was caught off guard. The boundary had not maintained the river because of lack of funds for federal appropriations. And we came very close to flooding downtown El Paso. it was our shock, Robert's and mine, although we had alerted them to it numerous times, the Boundary Commission, that the capacity of the river below American Dam is at an all-time low, lower than it was in 2006. We were trying to deliver 177 CFS. Remember, the capacity of that section is supposed to be 12,000 CFS. Capacity of the section could not handle 177 CFS. And Mexico had to bring their excavators in to dig a pilot channel to make the deliveries. Not to say that it was overbanked, but it was getting close to being overbanked. Not over the levees, over the primary channel. Primary channel is supposed to be at 5,000.
You're kidding.
You're talking about this year?
I'm talking about 45 days ago, or less.
170 fill the river.
The primary channel of it, not up to the
I mean,
levees.
that's the channel, I mean, the others is flood.
The river's full of salt cedars.
Salt cedars and, yeah,
Oh, okay,
So these that have grown since 2007.
islands, and if you go in the KUQ area, there's some huge islands right in the middle, right in there.
So if we were to have the events this year that we had in 2006, by the way, the forecasting is actually for more rain in the next 90 days than we had forecasted in 2006. We're gonna have some major problems. I mean, Hudspeth is gone, you took them to explain this to the commissioner. Other issues that have to do with the boundary is that we had, because of the border fence and isolation of our canal, the American Canal, on the Mexican side of the fence, we requested it to be put in box culverts for safety, security of our drinking water supply. I understand the boundary approved or recommended because box culverts are significantly more expensive than open channel not to do that. Right. For economic reasons.
Well, you can't grow many salt cedars in
Well, and it's harder to pour a contaminant or a terrorism thing into our drinking water.
so they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it because of money, although Congressman Reyes had obtained adequate funding 4 years ago when we worked
I
this
thought that was
issue.
already a done deal.
Yeah, we thought it was all done.
Well,
They just
the
informed us it
overshoots-
wasn't.
The overshoots are open, the box will be closed,
Up to that point,
Up
up
to
to
the College Royal.
the College
the
Arroyo.
overshoots from the College Royal into the Rio Grande. will be-
Oh, okay,
That's the
so
overshoot.
it will be, okay, I
Right.
apologize.
But
It's a
the-
12-foot high by
The
24
project
foot wide.
to place the American Canal underground, that Congressman Reyes got the 16 million for, that's going to happen this
Okay, so
coming
it's
year.
just, it's just the last piece of it.
Right, in fact, they're letting out for,
September for
bid,
contract.
yeah.
for
What?
construction.
The arroyo will still go through there. It'll go into the canal.
It goes over the top.
Over the top into the river.
It'll have
Go
both
over
options.
the top.
Over the top, and it'll
If
have
you go
a,
over the top, it's not enclosed, the canal.
the canal isn't closed. The American Canal will be in a 12-foot tall by 24-foot wide box culvert right past the right past the College Royal. And the College Royal is gonna shoot over,
But there's an up, so where did they,
but they'll have an overflow that'll drop into the American Canal if the capacity of the Rio Grande has been reached. So they'll have the ability to discharge inside the American Canal.
I suspect the capacity when we reach is the capacity of the river is 170.
Yes.
well, but ironically, right there, that's right where we're right at the beginning of the Chalmazal project, which the city keeps cleaning, right? So the bottleneck